Hello everybody, welcome back to another live stream. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today match reaction to yesterday's defeat at the London Stadium to West Ham, where QPR unfortunately crashed out the third round of the FA Cup yet again to a 2-1 loss. So yeah, we'll be getting into that. We will. Who's in the chat at the moment? I know we're a bit late. I do apologize. We was meant to do this like hours ago, but I've been so busy with work. So yeah, hopefully you're all having a great day. Hopefully you enjoyed last night or yesterday afternoon, I should say, with the game. Listen, look, it wasn't a disappointing game, but yeah, we'll talk about it in a sec. Who we got in the chat? Is there anyone there? Anybody in the chat? Harvey Elliott using his other accounts, as he says in the chat. How are you, mate? Hopefully you're okay. Hopefully you're happy with yesterday, even though we got knocked out. Oh man, jeez. We killed that stream. I'm not gonna lie, yesterday's stream was a crazy one. So yeah, good. No jokes about planes. The thing was, right, the thing was where my joke was completely different to what obviously you was thinking, to be honest. So yeah, but yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I've got no issues with it whatsoever. Listen, it's just sometimes you gotta think about others in the chat, mate. That's all. Some people might get offended by it, so that's why I kept quiet about it. So, yeah. But yeah. Who else is in the chat? Anybody there? Anyone there before we start? Anybody in the chat ready for the match reaction for today? In fact, have I done this right? Yeah, I have. I've done this right. Yeah, just making sure. Who's in the chat? Liverpool are winning 1-0 at the moment. Xavi Alonso got sacked. Jesus Christ, that's nuts as well. Alright, cool. We're going to start with it anyway, because we ain't, we don't want to kind of waste time and all of that. So, yeah. Right, switch to the thing here. So yeah, as you can see, QPR crashed out of the FA Cup third round yet again. The curse continues. Don't think we've been had a good cup run for ages. I thought Julian, with his his credentials and how he's been in the French league, you may have thought, okay, cool, we might have something in the bag here. So yeah, good to see Scott M 1894. Good to see you in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. Much love. Hopefully you're having a good day. But yeah, today I'm not, do you know what? I'm not even upset about it. I'm not upset because I'll tell you why. To go to London Stadium and just lose 2-1 and still score in the FA Cup and put a performance how we did, I'm honestly proud. I'm still proud of them, that team. At the start of the game, I was very unsure I was very unsure on what I thought about the team, what he put out. As everyone knows, whoever's been in this channel for a while, I'm not a big fan of the 4-4-2 with Julian. It's not great for us, I don't think. It doesn't suit us. Even though we are scoring goals from it, I just think it's just not enough. When you have two strikers on the pitch, you're not scoring enough goals, in my opinion, in the game sometimes. So yeah. Scott says, think taking Collie off took the danger out of the game. I'll get into that. I'll get into that because I'll be honest, he had to change something, whether it was tired legs or, but something had to be changed. But yeah, QPR started the game off really well yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I was very surprised. The team that he put out was Walsh in goal, and Benge, Dunkirk, Norrington Davis. That was our back four. Dembele, Madsen, Hayden and Sato in the midfield with Collie and Kone up front. West Ham's team were Hermansen, Tadipo, Mavropanos, Kilman, all at the back. Mayers, Potts, Magassa, Wan-Bissaka in midfield. And Bowen, Valentin, Castellanos, and Somerville all up front for West Ham. Yeah. What I would say right now is that the first couple of 20 minutes of the game, I would say, I wouldn't say we dominated it, but I would say we was more attacking than West Ham completely. We was. You know, they had more momentum in the game constantly, I would say, in that game. But we had frequent parts of that game where I would say we looked dangerous on the attack. You know, first 20 minutes was brilliant. We was attacking so much. But unfortunately, you know, I feel like the 20th minute, Koki Sato went down with an injury to the hammies, and he had to be subbed off for Paul Smith, which was not great. I feel like that kind of changed the game a little bit with the momentum. Since that happened, you know, West Ham were kind of constant on the attack after. They were pushing for the ball. You know, they went in a lot of the time with confidence, you know, against us. So, yeah. Good to see you, Nick, in the chat. Hopefully you're okay. Hopefully you're fine from yesterday's result. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, like I was saying, I honestly believe that after that substitution happened, the game kind of went all West Ham, to be honest, in that first half. I would personally say, you know, when you go to London Stadium, when they're in form, it's different tempo. It's a different mindset. As well as how, you know, you got to remember, when we play teams like in wider stadiums, let's just say like Coventry and all of that, it's going to be more harder for us because, you know, we're not spread out on the pitch. And that's why I thought he was going to change the formation and going into that. But it didn't happen. You know, even with the sub, he kept the 4-4-2 going. And obviously West Ham were pretty much constant pushing us in that first half. But I will say this. What the hell? Where the hell has the defense been? You know, that defense yesterday for QPR is what I've been waiting to see since the start of the season. I don't know what happened, but for some reason Steve Cook fucking put in one of the best performances of his life yesterday. Joe Walsh, absolute bloody brilliant. You know. And I was so shocked to see this. You know, I want to see Steve Cook play like that each week. And I swear to God, I think the fans would get off his back. You know, that performance there from Steve Cook was bloody brilliant. You know, we talk about classic English or classic defending, right? Old defending. Steve Cook and Jimmy Dunn yesterday both did that yesterday. Absolutely smashed it. You know, causing issues. Making sure that no goals were going in at that time. You know, they were killing it. Jimmy Dunn and Steve Cook, I want to see that more often. I really do. Especially when we're at home. Defensive abilities like that. Steve Cook showed exactly what he's capable of. It was bloody brilliant. Honestly, bloody brilliant. I'm actually really happy to see it. You know, finally, there was something positive to see that defensive ability was really well done. You know, he kept diving in for the ball, not diving in for the ball, but blocking the ball, doing really well with his challenges and all that. The only mistake, what I would say, which happened was when the first goal went in with Somerville. Basically, the only way to sum it up is Steve Cook came out too early, got turned by a player. Jimmy Dunn out of possession as well. And this is why I said where maybe a different formation would have been better yesterday, just because of the fact being that you could see the two wingers for West Ham were playing really wide and they were utilising their stadium width a lot more. So where you saw Somerville out wide a lot, Jared Bowen out wide a lot, you didn't really see them coming in that much. But that's what kind of caused the first goal. And it was like Somerville was so wide and there was no one marking him. Even Mbenge was out positioned at the time. And Somerville did what he does and literally got the ball past Joe Walsh. But even before that, Somerville was taking shots way before that, and what I would say is that Joe Walsh pulled off some great saves yesterday. Some absolute Paul Nardi saves from last season, I would say. You know, and this is the Joe Walsh that I want to see. You know, he actually was not rushing out a goal like he usually does. He was actually doing really well with that. You know, he was clearing the ball with corners really well. There was a bit of errors he did, but it was one of the best performances I've seen from Joe Walsh, Jimmy Dunn, and Steve Cook. You know, I can't really say much about Norrington Davis, and I can't really say much about Amadou Mbengue, just because they didn't really, in my opinion, pull off a performance that I was expecting. Amadou Mbengue, like I said, my favourite player. I'm not going to hate on him whatsoever, but I still think, honestly, I know why they put him there. You know, in defensive ability, he's really good, but attacking, it's not there whatsoever. So, yeah. Nick says, interested to hear your thoughts. I was proud of the way we held our own, especially with 7 or 8 injuries out. I think West Ham switched their formation to contribute to them being more offensive, but I think Bowen and Somerville done it for them. Yeah, the wingers killed it for them, to be honest, and this is exactly what I'm trying to say, is that's what kind of was the threat, was the wingers and the set pieces. But obviously, yeah, Somerville scored the goal just before half-time. And obviously going into halftime, there was, I think there was a sub. Pablo came on for Mavropos. No, this was was it the first half, I think it was the first half where Mavropos got injured, I think, into the head. So I would say, hopefully Mavropos is okay, because he did get stretched off. But fingers crossed he's okay. It was in the second half, I think it was, actually. But I really hope he's okay. Hopefully there's not too much damage there. But he was holding his head really bad yesterday. So thoughts out. Shout out some thoughts to Mavropanos. So yeah. But yes, whatever he said in the second half, it kind of worked. We was a bit more attacking in that second half than the first. You know, not by much, but it was to the point where we actually did get a goal. Caramel Kademble doing the bits for us. Crossing the ball in to the box for Richard Kone. I don't know if it hit off his head or off his back, but it beat the keeper. It did the job to make it 1-1. And wow, I would say this. 9,000, if it was 9,000 fans at West Ham, that lifted the stadium. Honestly, that stadium was rocking yesterday. You know, if that was probably crazy, honestly, very crazy for that, for Richard Kone to score to make it 1-1. After the goal went in, West Ham did some changes. Well, one change with Thomas Souček, probably to go a bit more defensive, with a bit more what do they call it? What do you call it? Experience. That's the one. Experience. So yeah, Thomas Souček came on. I would say probably did change the game a little bit, where we stopped with the attacking. We was more defensive. We was. And obviously during that happening, we was incredible. You know, I've not seen Jimmy Dunn and Steve Cook clear that ball. Joe Walsh commanding the box out all this season like they did completely well in that second half. You know, that second half was tremendous. I would applaud that performance, even though we lost. I want to see that each week, that defense like that. You know, I really want to see Steve Cook in good graces with QPR fans, because he does, honestly, with that performance, I feel like he does deserve the game against Stoke with Jimmy Dunn being put in the back. You know, so shout out to Steve Cook, like I said. You know, big up on that as well. Obviously, subs were made around the 83rd minute mark. Daniel Benny came on for Dembele. Sam Field came on for Davis. I'll be honest, it wasn't great after that. It was just pure defensive, and that was it, really. We were just trying to defend. We did attack a bit. You know, there was opportunities there, but just wasn't great and good enough, especially with 2 up front. Wan-Bissaka, we'll say this. Wan-Bissaka, I highly rate Wan-Bissaka because he's a great tackler. He's a very great tackler. He's got pace, and he's very good. And I'm going to say this. I think Paul Smith had him in the bag. I honestly do. He struggled with Paul Smith. And number 2, Paul Smith had him in the bag in defensive as well. You know, when Paul Smith was getting the ball back, he got
pretty much not every tackle, but almost everything there against Wan-Bissaka, which I was really proud of. You know, it was an excellent performance by every player. You know, but what killed us, obviously Kieran Morgan came on for Ryan Colley to change the game and creative side, but what really killed us was tiredness in that game. You know, I think we're just very tired. You know, we haven't played that like that in ages, and you could see when that extra time happened, you know, most of the players were shattered. You know, they were sitting down getting massaged. So yeah, I personally would say this. I don't blame them. You know, a game like that, I would have probably said maybe standing up would have been a best choice, just in case they're looking at it and thinking, all right, cool, they're tired, let's finish them off. But I would personally say the only reason why we lost that game in the extra time was because of a bad marking scenario and a great header from Castellanos. You know, it was brilliant header. It was a brilliant, I believe it was a cross by Somerville. So yeah, I think tiredness killed the game for us. Obviously, Keely Adamson came on for Mbenge. That didn't really change much, but it was good to see him on the field. Hopefully we see more of him this season. Obviously West Ham did change the game up after that by changing the formation. You know, there was a couple of opportunities in the end of the second half, but yeah, I think what really killed us was tiredness, I would say. West Ham did the job, finished it off, and won 2-1 on extra time. You know, the man of match was Somerville. He pulled off a bloody great performance, I would say. It's good to see him on the field. You know, most of our players were just so tired, and you know, I just feel like at the end of the day, they all deserve a round of applause for their performance. Usually, if they crashed out and showed a bad performance, I would probably cuss them out. But I'll be honest, that performance was acceptable. You know, I would say a lot of people are gonna hate what I'm saying, but I would honestly, I'm very proud of that team. You know what Julian put out. You know, it's not the strongest teams, but I personally say with injuries we're gonna struggle a little bit now. You know, we got our Ronnie Edwards. And it's a bit weird how we get Ronnie Edwards and now Steve Cook wants to play like this, which is a bit mad. I know Varane's injured. I know Edwards can play on the wings, and I know Edwards can play in front of the front four. So likely chances are he could be used as a Varane midfielder at the moment. But I personally say Hayden and Madsen are working great together. You know, I don't know what the Twitter hate is about saying that we're missing Varane, Madsen's not playing well because Varane's out. But I'll be honest, they're playing great together, Madsen and Hayden, you know. Madsen's got a 7.8 yesterday, so I don't know what everyone's hating him on for. You know, at the end of the day, I don't think Madsen's a creative player in our team at the moment. You know, the way he's playing, he's a box-to-box midfielder like what Sam Field would be. So yeah, I would personally say the two midfielders did a cracking job yesterday. Obviously, Sato's injured. Hopefully, it's not serious, but hopefully they release a statement soon on it. Dembele got an assist. He didn't have the best of the games, but he looked good when going past opponents, which was great. Colley, I know he's probably going to get a lot of hate for the celebration when we scored with the crosses. I don't know what that was about, but listen, look, Colley is a great young player. You've great young talent, and I hope to see him not on loan now. I hope to see him more on the pitch with Kone or by himself, which would be brilliant. And we'll see where that goes until the end of the season. But the only weak spots I would say yesterday, which I didn't like, was our two wing backs, I would say. That's the only fault I have, really. The two wing backs were very quiet for us. And Mbenge and Norrington Davis. I think maybe playing, you know, I know why you played them, because obviously experience-wise, you know, trying to even get a chance to beat West Ham. But I would say personally, you know, that was, you know, not great performance from them too, unfortunately. 6.2 and a 6.6. But I'm surprised Dunn and Cook got low scores with the performance that they pulled out in defence, which is amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Walsh gets the game against Stoke, as he performed bloody brilliantly against West Ham. So yeah, it ended Walsh with a 7.6, Davis 6.6, Cook 6.7, Dunn 6.5, and Benge 6.2, Sato 6.2, Hayden 6.7, Madsen with a 7.8, Dembele 7.1, Colley 7.0, and Kone with a 7.9. Obviously, we didn't get to see Ben Hamer, Escudina, Timothy Akindinelli, and Tyron Smith play. Like I said, injuries right now is Ilya Sher, Jake Clark-Salt, Jonathan Varane, Liam Morrison, Roman Burrell, Lakash, and now Stato. So we'll see what happens in the news, what we get soon. We will be live. Well, we will be with a preview show against Stoke, and we should be live against Stoke as well. We might run a little late for that because I have some things to do, but hopefully we're on time. What are the comments saying? Agree to be with our back line. Be interested to see if Ronnie starts for one of them into think we will not cause of performance, but maybe from tiredness. Very impressed with Colley with his all-round play, and but bodes well for the absence of Burrell. The difference of the Prem and the Championship comes down to difference in athleticism. I would say, yeah, Nick, 100% is a big difference in there. He also said, I think we would beat most of the Championship teams on that performance. I would say this, I still have a bit of doubt on the 4-4-2. I really do. I really don't think it works, personally, for goals. I personally think we need to go with 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. Personally, the 4-3-3 is not worked for us completely. But I would say 4-2-3-1. We need to try that, because I don't think, with obviously everyone injured, I think Kone or Colley or whoever it is up front needs to be one up front and going from there. But we know what we're going to see against Stoke. We're probably going to see the 4-4-2, and hopefully Ronnie. We get to see Ronnie play, which is great. There's no transfer news at the moment whatsoever. Nothing going on there. I think it's going to be pretty quiet for now with what's going on. But yeah. Nick says, be nice to see Adamson more, especially if Mbenge reaches his ban on cards. I would still say Mbenge would be better at centre-back, personally. I know a lot of people are saying right-back is his position. I know it is, but he performs a lot better, and his rating's a lot better in centre-back, you know, and he'll do... The thing that I would say is, now we have Ronnie, I would probably say put Jimmy back right back and Benge and Ronnie in the middle with whoever on the left. You know, Steve Cook right now, you know, probably will beat Mbenge to the touchline now, because obviously the performance he did yesterday. But yeah, we'll see what happens against Stoke. So yeah, but preview show will be out this week, and we'll go from there. Apart from that, we're gonna leave it there for tonight. Like I said, I'm very proud of the boys. I'm very proud of them. Great support from the supporters on Sunday. 9,000 people at that stadium was brilliant. But yeah, we're gonna end it there for tonight. We don't want to go on too much, because obviously I'm shattered. I'm sure everyone else is. But yeah, if you enjoyed the live stream, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to, and peace, love, positivity, and we'll catch you sometime this week, very soon. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Just God bless to all of you and everyone that killed the stream yesterday. Honestly, I had a feeling it was gonna happen because it was West Ham, but honestly, you guys, you know, everyone who subscribed, and you know, liked the video and tuned in and joined the chat, you killed it. Honestly, you was amazing. And much love for that. So yeah. Nick, we'll catch you soon. Thank you for tuning in. Scott as well, and Harvey Elliott. And yeah, we'll catch you in a bit.